Hello and welcome back to Popcorn Chat. I hope you guys are doing well. My name's Sarah and I'm bringing you something different once again this week as I've just got back from Nottingham International Film Festival. This was the screen pass that I was able to grab. It's now broken. It was on a lanyard, please believe me. Where I was able to go both Saturday and Sunday. I couldn't go Friday, unfortunately. So I was just going to run through various films that I was able to see at this festival. I'm going to move to the side and you're going to have some things here. That's what people do, right? They do that. So this is the programme. It ran from Friday to Sunday. This sort of gives you details of various films, feature films and short films that were showing at the festival. Generally speaking, it was quite a small festival. So if you're looking for maybe a first time one, a local one to you, I'd recommend this one just to get a sense of what it might be like at other festivals. It's definitely a little bit smaller, considering one of my first ones was London Film Festival, so it did feel smaller. The films start showing from 12 PM and the last one starts at 7:30, so it's not too late in the day, so you can still go ahead and do something in the morning, so that may work for you. So that's just a little bit of an overview of the festival. There's also two locations, so one was the Savoy Theatre, which was a beautiful old kind of theatre that was a little bit out of town, and that's where they played the feature films. And then you had the Nottingham Contemporary, which is where they hosted the short films, which also sort of a museum, gift shop, cafe, smack in the centre of Nottingham. So I was able to capture various films at both locations, and they both got a bit of character, so I like that. Okay, let's get into the films. So the first film I was able to capture at the Nottingham International Film Festival was Between Two Worlds. So Between Two Worlds is a French film. It's directed by Emmanuel Carrere. I'm not sure how to pronounce their last name, which follows a lead protagonist who is an author, and she goes undercover as a cleaner in very much sort of working class situations in order to understand what her character would be for her next book. So it's this film about, misidentity in terms of, what does it feel like to be working class? So obviously they're going to get bitten in the butt by the end of it, and they do. Saying that, even though it's a familiar story, I thought the actresses did a very good job. It's very much a female sort of heavy film, and I think the dynamic between the women, the main sort of characters and the supporting cast that also played the cleaners were excellent in this film. Another main negative I have of this film is how abruptly it ended. It kind of just stopped. You thought, okay, we're going to get these characters to have a resolution, and it didn't really happen, so it just ended. So for me, I gave this film 2.5 stars out of 5. So on to the second film, which I saw on Saturday evening, which is another feature film, and that film is God's Petting You. The reason I wanted to see this film is I recognised a few actors in the cast. So we had the likes of Alice Lowe, April Pearson, Joe Wilkinson, who else did we have? Jordan Stevens. So the various actors that I'd recognised. However, they weren't really in main roles except for Alice Lowe. They all played sort of side characters, which was a shame. Saying that, I think the female lead was excellent in this. Not too sure on the male lead. But think of this film as something like True Romance. But maybe not as good. Very much a British thing, set in Brighton. These two people meet at an AA meeting and ultimately sort of start to have feelings for each other, and then they find out that the woman is being domestically abused and they want to get away from that situation, but they need money to do that. And then it's about these two trying to plan to kill the woman's partner, who is a porn star. And yeah, there's some weird scenes in there. There's some really weird scenes. The dialogue's a bit weird. Either had me laughing or had me cringing. It was a fine line. And yeah, there's a scene in there, but I don't think it's safe for this channel. Maybe go and watch this film, but you'll know what I mean when you see the scene. So not only were the scenes really long, but the film itself was 100 minutes, and it just felt like it was just stretching for that feature-length title. So I gave this film 2 stars out of 5. Moving on to Sunday, I was just able to capture some short films, and in this short film session, they showed 8 films. So I'm just going to run through each film and give you my brief thoughts on them. The first film was Passenger, which is where we see this sort of very minimal dialogue of a young girl who I don't know, I wasn't sure if they were just friends, having a relationship, and then there's these sort of flashes of driving in a car, and then we eventually piece it together that they're in a car crash together, and ultimately the daughter has to speak to her father, who is a policeman, in order to rectify the situation, and he helps her out in one way to, you know, alleviate her of this sort of damage it may cause to the rest of her life. So yeah, that was quite an interesting one. Wasn't a massive fan with how it was shot, but I liked the story ultimately. So I'd give Passenger 2.5 stars out of 5. So Collector's Item was the second one, which I found quite interesting actually. It was about this, we just sort of open in a fancy apartment. This sort of white business guy comes in, and that's when we see this sort of black woman. You may think she is a sex worker possibly, and we see that this guy is trash. He's done this before, he's abusive to women, so I like the kind of turn they have on this. There's comments on race, misogyny, all this sort of really sort of relevant themes running through this short film. So I liked what it was saying, definitely. I really liked what it was saying in this film. I just wish it was filmed a little bit better. I don't know if it was filmed on 35mm, but it looked a bit grainy at the beginning. Other than that, I love the story of this one. The Collector's Item, I would give that 3.5 out of 5. So the third film was Circular, which is probably my least favourite of this session. It didn't really say much to me. It was just these sort of perfectly centered shots of various things like coffee, washing machines, candles. Didn't really get it personally, and it was only like 2 minutes, so that was my least favourite. I'd probably give it 1 out of 5. Not really for me. Next up we have Different Day, and with this one we see, I really like this one. This is the one where it's a UK made one, which shows the dynamic between a mum and her 2 daughters. The mum clearly has some mental health issues, maybe, you know, very much abuses alcohol, and it's their sort of dynamic and what the eldest sister is willing to do in terms of provide for the family and look after her sister. So I liked the dynamic between the 2 sisters. I think the main actress was excellent. It was filmed beautifully as well, so I really enjoyed this one. So again, I'd give this one 3.5 stars out of 5. So next one we have is Against Reason, and this is a Canadian one, and I thought this was shot beautifully. The lighting and cameras were amazing, and this sort of follows a couple that reconnect. This guy's sort of messaging. I thought it was just messaging, maybe a hookup, but in fact we realised that they were together, like pretty seriously, and they had this sort of discussion over a night about where it went wrong and the good times or maybe not so good times, and ultimately it builds this climax within 10 minutes. You know, they do it so well in such a short time about, you know, the sort of the cheating that he did, and they bring that up. And what I like is how it ends in terms of that this guy is just, you know, he's not going to break that chain. Goes and talks to the woman he cheated with, then is on Tinder constantly. So I thought it was an interesting commentary on modern dating and human nature, I guess, in terms of some people. And, you know, is it something they will ever change with? I don't know. So I enjoyed this one. I think I would give this one 4 out of 5. Next up we have Finger Prick, which is another UK-based one. And for this one, oh yes, it was really short, this one. So it's got the sort of only male from Derry Girls. He's in this, and this one's quite short, maybe a couple of minutes, 3-4 minutes, and it shows a situation where the male protagonist is doing a HIV test, sitting in the bathroom, you know, taking that test and talking to someone in the bath, whilst also his mum's trying to get into the bathroom, and, you know, he's ultimately internally contemplating, you know, coming out and sort of speaking openly about what he's going through. So I think it was a nice little wrap up in terms of, you know, 3-4 minutes. I think he got the message across quite clearly. So I thought this was a good one, really. Can't really fault it. Maybe just a bit too short. So I'm going to give this one 3.5 out of 5. The Unwanted Guest. This is a Swedish one. I was very much engaged by this one in terms of the tone and the humour. I like that sort of mainland Europe humour, definitely. But I was a little bit confused by the ending in terms of who was who and who was, enemies, who was working together. But everything leading up to that, I loved it in terms of the sort of dark humour. It was lit nicely, all sort of very much a sepia tone to everything. And I liked the neighbour next door. I think the grumpy old lady, she was great. I loved it. She called the man a wanker. Love it. So if it wasn't for the ending and the sort of confusion, I think I'd still give it 3.5. 3.5. The ending just wasn't clear for me on this one. Then on to our last film, we have Road Trip. And I'm glad they put it last because I got a bit emotional in this one. We sort of open with a mother and daughter on a road trip. They're in fancy dress, which makes me think they must be going to a hen do together maybe, and they're in a car. And they have this sort of sing-along and just sort of talking about general mother-daughter things. And then there's a shift in tone when the mother throws her wig off and out the window. And then that's when you realise, okay, that's sort of changed the tone a little bit. Because immediately you think this is a cancer survivor. And we ultimately, from then on, it changes and we realise that they are in fact driving to a hospice or an end-of-life centre. And that's when we realise that this is, the mother has gone there to die, unfortunately. And then it just gets really emotional there on out. I thought this one was great. I think they added in humour at the end and it showed character. I liked the characterisation. That was fully fleshed out between these two people. So I think they did excellent with that one. I really like this one as well. I would give this one 4 out of 5. So there you have it. That's not many films as maybe I'd like to have seen, but with the way the weekend worked, I think, I managed to see a few things and I was fortunate enough to get a screener's pass for this. So thank you very much to Nottingham International Film Festival for letting me come along and experience some films that, I may not have seen before. So I would really recommend this one if you're looking for a first film festival to go to. It's really good to support local film festivals as well as watching a variety of different things, and this is the place to do it. Most films were £5, so why not check it out if you can, or find if there's one nearer to you. Maybe there is, but maybe we'll visit again next year. Well, thanks for checking out the video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it, something different once again. If you haven't subscribed already, what are you doing? Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment saying, what films would you like to see at a film festival, or what film festival would you love to go to? I know I'm going to London Film Festival definitely this year, so hopefully see a few of you there. But thank you very much everyone for watching, and I'll see you very soon in another popcorn chat.